I've heard bass is easier to play, but it's harder to master.
Yeah, that's accurate. Because I've been talking to Patrick, and like the biggest issue I've had with the bass so far is that guitar would be like 5/7, but on bass that's 5/6. 5/7's like that. So it's getting the spacing right. And then after like a week of playing bass, I went to pick up the guitar and was overshooting everything. And I've been talking to Patrick, like my first message, like after I got started fucking around with it, I sent Patrick a video of just what I was doing. He's like, oh sweet, yeah, one of us, this and that. I'm like, yeah, but I keep fucking up because like I keep hitting the wrong fret because it's supposed to be closer. He's like, now I know how I feel whenever I pick up a fucking guitar. And after a week of playing bass, I actually picked up my guitar because I wanted to do like a side-by-side video, like bass and guitar part. I've been trying to figure out a song, and I picked up my guitar after a week to like, okay, I have an idea of what I want to play. And I was like overshooting everything, and I sent a message like, I get it now. I definitely get it now, because I am overshooting everything I try to play.
See, my problem learning guitar, like my biggest problem is that like I have tiny little hands, so like I can't reach anything, and I still can't play bar chords at all because my fingers just won't do it. Like that's definitely the hardest thing for me. So I don't think I could do bass.
You need a reach to do it. Like even stuff that I would play with these two fingers on guitar.
Right.
Yeah, how do you do it, Lindsay? Like, are your hands smaller than mine?
I mean, little hand. I don't know. You gotta stretch. There's like, at least when I took lessons, like in person, not on Fender online. He had us like practice on the low E, which is like the farthest your fingers have to reach, and then like all four. So basically our practice was like just practice stretching your fingers until you can do it.
Yeah, that's what I need to do.
Yeah, but my thing about the bass is like on guitar, like if I have to go from 5 to 7 on the guitar, I can do it with these two fingers. 5 to 7 on the bass, like depending on where it is, like depending on the stretch, is like I have to use my pinky. So yeah, it's a bit more of a stretch. Like overall, like you could probably fake a lot of it with one finger, but like what I was doing with like the Rise Against riff and stuff like that the other night, like you can't phone that one in. Basically, when at this point, like I'm like, yeah, new thing, and I'm like, whenever I hear like any sort of bass riff that isn't Primus, because God knows I'd probably get frustrated with that real quick. I hear like the Angel came on the other day. I'm like, I'm gonna learn it. So. Yeah.
Welcome to Paradise. That's a good bass riff.
Yeah, that is good. I actually know I should beat Patrick to the punch and actually learn Maxwell Murder.
Ooh, yes.
I should learn that and be like, you know what? Since you never learned it, fuck you. Did it myself. So. Yeah. I'm thinking about like all the Sex Pistols I heard. I'm like, well, punk rock. Where'd I? Oh wait, I heard a lot of Sex Pistols as a kid. That's why I like punk rock so much. Yeah.
I got into punk through like Rise Against Anti-Flag, and then retroactively went back and listened to like the Sex Pistols and the Clash and all that shit.
Yeah, the Queers were good. Clash, Ramones.
A lot of like my older bands that I like were retroactive from Green Day, because like I look at Green Day's influences and be like, oh, they like the Clash, I'll listen to the Clash. Oh, they like I don't know, the Ramones, I'll go listen to the Ramones.
Yeah.
My boss now, who's like the dean of like the little academic institute I work for, he's like, typical like dean guy. He's like in middle age, like has glasses, seems very like professional and like proper. He grew up in the Bronx, and he was at CBGB like back in the day when it was like peak CBGB and shit. I love talking about that stuff. It's awesome.
Damn.
So cool. If I could go back in time, I would definitely go there right away.
Oh yeah. That would be one of my first.
Yeah, everyone did a lot of drugs, and I was like, yeah. Yeah, they did.
Yeah. But friggin', oh man. Yeah, no, there's some shows like I would like there's some bands I would love to see in there like before they peaked out type deal.
Off Ivy. I would kill to see Off Ivy.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
I'd go back like early stages of Bowie.
Yeah. I just watched one of my dad's big faves influenced me was Elton John. I love Elton John. And I just watched that Rocketman movie a couple weeks ago, and like gone back to his first show at like the Troubadour. That'd be sick.
Oh, I've been to the Troupe.
Have you?
In LA, yeah.
You didn't see Elton John there, though, did you?
What?
You didn't see Elton John there though, did you? Because he would have been too big for that at the time. Yeah.
No, I saw the matches at the Troubadour.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I'd like to see like early show, like early Elton John would be fucking amazing. Like, but early Queen.
Yes, dude. Yeah.
Early Queen, like if I like.
Oh, I would kill to see Freddie Mercury, number one.
Yeah. Oh no, it's one of my favorite lines from a video game ever. As I was playing Brutal Legend, and like during the opening, there's a and Brutal Legend, if you don't know, like is Jack Black made based around Jack Black video game, and he plays like the ultimate roadie. And it's like he's on the side stage watching this like almost new wave band playing. He's like on the side of the stage talking to someone else. He's like, "Do you ever feel like like you were born the wrong time? Like you're out of place? Like you should have been alive when music was like music?" And the guy's like, "What? Like the '70s?" He's like, "No, earlier than that. Like the early '70s." And I'm sort of like. Yeah. Because I was thinking about like main like past 74 and stuff like that. I'm just sort of like he's got a point.
You know what's disturbing is that I bet like for example like when your kid is our age they're gonna talk about the music of our era in this exact same way.
Oh yeah.
Well, weird. Oh, I don't know how I feel.
Isn't that weird? I know.
You just Lindsay's now having a panic attack. Good job, Anna.
You're welcome. Also, side note, so I've been watching a lot of movies with my mom in quarantine, right? We watched this one called Blinded by the Light. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's about this guy from England who like loved Bruce Springsteen or whatever. So like his big deal was like going to like Asbury Park, and like he was all excited to get to go to the Stone Pony, and I was like, I've been to the Stone Pony. It's so nice to go to the Stone Pony.
Yeah. But no, that's the thing. Is like, well, at least as far as my kids go, at least Tristan's been to a lot of the like early shows for some of these bands. Yeah. So. You know.
That's so cool. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have kids, but if I do, by the time they're old enough to listen to the music I like, it will already be like classic.
Yeah, that's true.
So
you're gonna learn how I feel when I turn on the classic rock station and hear shit that like like Nirvana and stuff like that.
No, I'm not okay with it.
So the place that I do karaoke in New Orleans, I apparently always sing Basket Case at karaoke in New Orleans. But the last time I was there, it was under like the classic rock section, and I just like freaked out. I was like, this song is 2 years younger than me. It is not that old.
Wait till you wait. Yeah. Oh, actually, you know what I want to see? I want to see like the original 1980, I think it was 82 tour for The Wall.
Yeah, dude.
I remember that was when the first CD I ever bought was self-titled Alice in Chains, and then the next week I went and got Melancholy and Infinite Sadness by Smashing Pumpkins because it just came out. But I remember one of the first CDs that was ever given to me after I got my own stereo was someone gave me The Wall.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, that got played a lot. Wonder why I like concept albums so much, like all of Coheed.
Yeah. I would also maybe really into Pink Floyd. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Yeah, no, that's probably one of my influences then. When I was a kid, me and my dad used to watch, what did he call it? The Dark Side of Oz? Where you
line it up.
Yeah, Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that actually in a theater with like a laser show and everything like that
cool.
on a lot of drugs.
That's awesome.
You gotta go see Pink Floyd with a laser show.
Yeah.
For
a lot of drugs.
I was not on drugs. I was a child, and it was in my living room. But
yeah, I was like 14. So.
Yeah, no, me and two of my friends went to Portland, Maine one night. Yeah, a lot of drugs.
I do want to like smoke a lot of weed someday and go do that. It'd be awesome.
Just get a projector, like come out here, we'll just like project it on the side of the building or something.
Nice.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, but Pink Floyd, like I remember hearing that Dark Side of the Moon, concept. Actually, it was kind of funny. The first time I heard On the Brink was like that the guitar riff, like the intro guitar riff and first part of the verse was like, I'm like, wow, that sounds a lot like Pink Floyd. Like that's sort of like one of the things that grabbed me about it. I'm like, wow, that has a very Pink Floyd sound to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're one of Claudio's like main influences.
Yeah.
And rock, yeah.
I'm forgetting. Like, I don't know. I tend to like when I first heard Baroness, I'm like, wow, this sounds a lot like Mastodon or something like that. So usually I pretty much make the trace back whenever I hear something and be like, okay,
Yeah.
you know. And then there's all like the stoner rock I listen to that reminds me of I don't even know what. I think it's the closest I can get to like the classic country I heard as a kid, like with Clutch and stuff like that, with all like the stoner rock, like the Sword and stuff like that. That is sort of like we got really high, we have deep voices, and we're just gonna like bang on this note for a while, like
That's
you know,
stoner rock.
yeah, like Red Bang and stuff like that is just sort of like I think that goes back to like the as close to country as I like classic country as I can get, like because I did hear a lot of like Willie Nelson and Hank Williams and friggin' David Allan Coe, stuff like that when I was a kid, but now like new country is like pop country and has zero to do with anything, and I can't get behind it. So I think like Clutch and Red Fang, like those bands are like as close as I'm ever gonna get to like okay, I can country influence in what I heard.
Older, I dislike country less because that was something I always heard growing up. That wasn't like my parents listened to it, but I'm from the South, so country music was literally always playing. And at the time, I hated it. Like I remember my bus driver in middle school only ever played the country station, and I would put my like headphones in and just like tune her out. But now when I hear it, I'm like, oh, it's like home. So
Yeah, I get that. Because
Yeah.
in Indiana, it was all like pop country and stuff, right? So there were some things like occasionally I'll hear like Florida Georgia Line, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's like I'm home.
yeah.
But once I started listening to like Dolly Parton, Johnny Cash, that more of that stuff, I like that
Oh,
stuff.
Dolly Parton is great. Johnny Cash is great. But no, my big like I don't know with like the new country thing. Like I lived a year in Nova Scotia on my mom's property, and there's two bands I absolutely hate now because of it. Because all you heard while you were there was either like Garth Brooks and that generation of country, or the two redneck rock bands of choice, Lynyrd Skynyrd and AC/DC.
Yeah.
So I cannot stand listening to Lynyrd Skynyrd or AC/DC anymore because those were my two fucking options of what I heard up there.
Yep.
And I'm just sort of like, fuck that. Like that's why like AC/DC comes on and I'm just like, and as a kid, like I remember hearing it like in rotation on the radio, that and Lynyrd Skynyrd like in rotation on the radio, and it wasn't that bad. But after a year of like that's the only rock music you're hearing, it comes on and you just die inside. Especially with AC/DC because they like released the same album for 25 fucking years.
Oh, can I interject a fun fact since we're talking about musical influences? You guys know this, but I grew up in Indianapolis and went to Chicago for college. And a big part of the reason why I did that was because Rise Against was from Chicago.
Yeah.
That was definitely a factor in my decision. So
Actually, you saw the handwritten lyrics thing
The what?
for I the Mighty?
yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
My
Yeah.
first thought was, wow, Brent just signed up to write Frame 1 a lot.
Oh, geez.
Mm.
And then I was actually thinking, I'm like, because I was thinking about like, but actually I'm thinking that if I can somehow swing it, I want Cutting Room Floor. Because that was, again, one of the early ones I heard. I was just sort of like,
I don't know what I would want.
Searching for those.
Maybe one of the frames. I'll think about that.
yeah,
I don't know what I would get if I would get one.
yeah.
Maybe Degenerates.
Ooh, I love Degenerates. Yeah.
No, because that might make you guys, so that's why I want that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Degenerate, like that. And like I remember talking to you one day, and just remember like Brent was calling you a degenerate before it was a song. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, better about life.
Okay, yeah. Anna, I don't know if you know this story, but there was one night when I the Mighty was opening for Pierce the Veil, I think.
Oh yes, it was
and-
Pierce the Veil.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that was a fun show in and of itself because Pierce the Veil fans suck. But yeah, Biz and Alex came to Boston to stay with me. First of all, Brent. So he like texted me that day and he was like, "Hey, are you in Boston? We're playing tonight." And I'm like, "That's why I'm in Boston." Yes. And then he's like, "Do you have room for like 9 people?" And I was like, "Well, I've already got 2 staying with me, but like if we clear out all of my furniture right now, then yes."
I think I do remember hearing about that at the time.
Yeah, so I basically like last minute enlisted Biz and Graham to just like demolish all of my furniture and get it out. We made space for the whole band and all of their crew to come stay. Brent was the only one who ended up staying. So it was just the four of us, and we didn't need all of the space that I created, but whatever, it was what it was. And then at like 3 a.m. or something, Brent's talking about like wanting to go get food and like be degenerates in the middle of the night. So he was calling us degenerates like long before he wrote that song.
That's
I
awesome.
remember there are two things I remember about that. I remember when they pulled up to drop him off, Blake was just like in the back of the van, like,
Conked out.
oh, he was done. And I remember we were walking down the street, and for whatever reason, like, I can't remember, I was walking down and I heard something behind me. For whatever reason, she had Brent in like a headlock.
Oh, yep, yeah.
I'm like,
Talk me a picture of you putting Brent in a headlock. I would imagine
oh,
it'd
it was hilarious.
No, he put me in, I don't know which way you said it. He put me in a headlock, and then I was just trying to fight him.
Oh, okay. That makes more
I
sense.
don't remember how any of this happened, but like they're walking, we're trying to find food in the middle of the night, and
There was a whole series of events. It was
it's a very interesting night.
It was a whole thing. It was a night.
And also, I was like, I live here. I know Walgreens is 24/7. Let's go to Walgreens. And Brent would not believe me. He was like, no, it's not open. We have to find somewhere else. And I was like, we can go to Walgreens. I know it's
He thought he
open.
knew better than you, even though you live there.
What?
He thought he knew better than you, even though you live there.
Yeah, I live here. I go here.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's open. No, it's not open. We have to go somewhere else.
Ended up finding that random, really shady 7-Eleven that's where we ended up getting food.
Yep, we ended up at a 7-Eleven.
I feel like I've also gone to Boston and ended up having to get food at a 7-Eleven before. In a totally different setting, but
Yeah.
I wonder if it was the same 7-Eleven.
Probably.
Maybe.
It seems, I don't know, it was like a whole weird, I don't know. All I remember is like the headlock thing, and then just like that 7-Eleven was really sketchy.
I believe that. I believe that.
It was a fun night.
Maybe it was the same 7-Eleven, because so was mine.
Yeah, I remember they were trying to convince me to go to New York the next day too, and I'm like, oh, it's either mighty, tickets won't be that cheap, it won't be that bad, and then because it was Pierce the Veil headlining, we looked it up and it's like $150. I'm like, I'm going home.
Yeah.
Which sucked. If they were like cheap, I would just be like, can I get a ride in the van?
I did that once. I rode in their van from LA to San Francisco once, and then they called me Road Warrior for like a month after that. I
think
slept the whole way.
I think that's entirely Tristan's primary goal at getting the sound engineering degree is simply so he can just like, because you know at least Blake will be like, in, get it, let's go. So.
Yeah, he definitely has the connections. He just needs to get the degree, and he said, I think.
Well, between the guys and Earn, you know, so.
Oh, by the way, should we tell the story of how I met all of you guys during just kind of weird?
That's a fun story.
Yeah. So you guys were all out on the East Coast, right? Like Lindsay, you were living in Boston. Alex is from New Hampshire. All of my other friends are from like New York, New Jersey, etc. Which is also where Coheed is from, right? So you guys all met out there at the start of the Club Before the Sun tour, and that was the first Club Before the Sun tour, right?
Yeah, that was the first
one. So I was in the Coheed groups on Facebook because like I said before, been a fan since like 2004 or whatever, 6 maybe. Yeah. Not OG because there's people who got in way before me, but especially out east, like Jason, for example, would not think that I was OG because he's like real OG.
Well, then there's Christy, who's seen them 100 and something
times.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, when Peter's seen them like 65 times or some shit like that, so yeah. But anyway, so I joined the Coheed forums, and I wasn't actually going to go on that tour at all, but there was this guy, Dan, who is from out in Jersey, and he went to a show. Well, I mean, I can't really tell the story without that, but like, because that's how I got into it. But Claudio, he always like dressed up in steampunk shit for their shows, and I guess Claudio saw him at one show and was like, "I want to call you Captain Keywork, whatever." Like, I don't know how all that went down. I wasn't at that show, obviously, but So he started filming himself, like going to like every single show on this tour, right? And you guys, because you were out east, met him at all the early shows when he was doing this.
Wait, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Wait, so were you watching all the live streams as it was happening?
Yep.
Did you watch the Philly live stream?
I don't know that I did. I may have come in shortly after Philly.
Okay, because the Philly, Fenn was telling weird stories, and I was stuffing
of him telling his nipple story early on. I remember that. That was before I met him.
Yeah. So did you see me stuffing my face with cheesesteak? That was gonna be my question.
I don't know if I did because I didn't know who you were at that point, so I don't know if I would have picked
Every single time I was on camera during that live stream, I was just.
Yeah. I was,
you were Philly though. Like
I remember you watching when Dan and I were in the car because we used to live stream from the car all the
time.
Yeah,
I did watch those. You and one of the first people I remember recognizing was Felicia. I remember being like, oh man, I wish I could be friends with them. Felicia seems cool. Like, and I did become friends with her. That was the joke. But anyway, so I was in the Midwest. I was in Indiana doing all this. And I don't think they did an Indianapolis show on that tour. They may have gone to Chicago, but I don't know. But anyway, so I wasn't going to go on that tour. And then I remember I watched the whole Atlanta show live streamed. And that was when I was like, oh, this is so cool. I really want to go to a show on this tour. But they weren't any near me, so I was like, I just won't go. But then at the end of the tour, the very last show was here in Denver. And that was before my family didn't live here then. We all lived in Indianapolis still. And you guys were all meeting up in Denver. Except Alex, you didn't go to that show. I didn't until later.
Birthday.
That was a bum. You should have been there. But so it was over, like, I think Easter weekend. And my parents, for some reason, were out of town that weekend. So I wasn't going to spend Easter with my family anyway. I had just gotten, I think, my tax return check, right? So I had a little bit of extra cash. I had sort of a weird winter. Like, my cat died and I had surgery and whatever, and so I was kind of bummed out. So I was like, and Dan had been going on, Dan and everyone who was going to Denver, because all of his East Coast friends met him down there because he was, like, kind of bummed after spending, like, 2 months following a band around. I guess is probably rough on your body.
And it was his birthday. Like,
that's right. It was his birthday.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep. So they were all being like, everyone come down there. I think they probably meant like people that they actually knew come down is what they intended. But then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go. They're like, anyone can come. So I'm like, I'll just come. And so I posted on like the Facebook group, like, I'm going to come down to Denver. And then they're like, oh, come join our group chat. And Kaylin Valentin was like, that's not how you say her last name. I'm sorry, Kaylin. She's going to be mad at me. But so she was like, oh, you can stay in my hotel room. And I was like, oh, cool. That's super nice of you. So I like flew down to Denver, went up and met up with all you guys at what was the bar that you were at across from the Fillmore? I don't remember.
I don't remember the name of it.
I remember that, like, and I was super nervous because I didn't know anybody. I was like, I could get murdered. I'm just staying in a hotel room with these people I don't even know. Like, I'm just like at the time, like 26, 27-year-old girl, just like hanging out with a bunch of strangers. I can get murdered, but whatever. So I just showed up at this bar. I remember even like passing Felicia and some other people on the street, and I recognized her from the live stream, but I didn't want to say anything because she didn't know who I was. It would be like, oh, hey, I know you. Like, and just show. So I went to the bar and I found Kaylin, and then she introduced me to everybody else. And then, we went to the show that night with all of you guys. Remember I met Biz because he was in like that Star Wars onesie or whatever.
Cameron.
Yeah. And like a lot of people at that show were wearing one, like, because Dan dressed up in his steampunk stuff. So then everybody else did a bunch of weird shit. Brandon had his like pink spiky hair. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon was one of the you know Brandon. He's always super nice and like welcoming to everybody. Jason was really nice to me at first too, because that's Jason. And so yeah, then I met you guys at the show pretty much.
Yeah.
And stayed in the hotel room and no one murdered me. Yeah. No one murdered me or drugged me or anything.
That was kind of that entire tour for me, which, I mean, I'm writing it all. So if you haven't heard it, you're going to read it eventually if I ever finish it. But like
quarantine, finish it.
I had met, I've written like 15,000 words. I'm super proud of myself.
That's a lot.
It's going to end up being like 100,000 because I have like so many more stories, but it's 15,000 so far. I'm getting there. But anyway.
Like 200 words during quarantine, so good for you.
What?
I've written like 200 words during quarantine and I was proud of myself, so good for you.
But yeah, I didn't even know. I met Jason and Biz. I mean, Biz was just hitting on me. But I met Jason really at an I the Mighty show a couple months before the Coheed tour. So then when the Coheed tour happened, Biz was the one that I ran into at Coat Check, and he was like, hey, come hang out with us. And I saw Jason and I was like, oh, okay, like, I know Jason, he's cool, like, I'll hang out with you guys. And that was like Dan and everybody. And then Cram was there. I ended up in their hotel room until 6 a.m. That I don't know. I didn't know any of these people. I just ended up in their hotel room until 6 a.m. And then it kind of kept happening that way. Like everyone was like, come to the New York show. So I went to New York. And then in New York, everyone's like, come to Philly. We're going to drive you to Philly. Still didn't know anybody. Sure, I'm going to Philly now, I guess.
Yep.
Stayed in a hotel with everybody in Philly. And then I think I mentioned that I was thinking about going to the Florida shows because like it lined up with my spring break. And Dan's like, okay, I'll get you a ride to Orlando. And then all of a sudden, Felicia shows up at my parents' house and knocks on the door. I had no idea who she was, this random girl who was just instructed to come pick me up at my parents' house. And then even that night, the thing my parents don't know, I took a key to their condo on the beach just like in case I needed a place to stay that night. Felicia didn't have room for everyone at her house. So I met Zane at the Orlando show, and I'm like, hey, Zane, do you want to drive me to St. Pete so we can stay at my parents' condo? Like, literally just met him a couple hours earlier. Like, every single thing was like, they were all strangers. I could have been killed at any point.
I know, right? But like in retrospect, like Zane is like the nicest dude who would never kill anybody. But like we didn't know. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the same thing about like
she's also like super sweet and she wouldn't have killed me either. But like all these people are just like, okay, my life's in your hands now. I don't know you. My life's in your hands now. I don't know you. Like, that's fine.
See, I had a warm up tour before that because before The Color Before the Sun, like I did the In Keeping Secrets tour where I did New York, Boston, and then Atlanta.
Yeah.
So like I got to go like Jason seems like a cool dude. He could murder me and just keep the jersey. But, you know, I'm going to crash at his place, you know, and that's why I met a lot of the new...
Also, least murderer guy ever.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
it's a good thing that a lot of these are, like, good people. That
I know, thank God, because, like, a bunch of, like, random dudes, you know, it's been a nightmare.
It sounds like a recipe for disaster, but it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, that's, you know, like, cause, so I sort of leg up, like, especially going to, like, New York and Philly shows and stuff like that, because that first In Keeping Secrets where I met, you know, like, stayed with Colton and stuff like that, like, I met, like Sandoval and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, Devin.
Yeah, Devin and Jen and Jay King, which they were actually, I think, other than Jason, the first people I met, and they were outside the venue, and we were sitting and talking. That was when I met Matt Pinfield. We all met Matt Pinfield because he was there, and he was fucking hammered. Oh god, that dude was so drunk. Oh my god, it was great, and he just kept going, like, because he was supposed to do like an interview with Claudia or something like that. Because, you know, for the young people who don't know who Matt Pinfield is, he used to do a lot of production for metal albums. He used to do Headbangers Ball on MTV and stuff like that for, you know, hang out with Anthrax and Slayer and stuff like that. But I guess he was one of the ones who.
I'm pretty sure I've seen him on TV.
Yeah. So he used to do it a lot of stuff like that, but I guess he was is somehow involved with In Keeping Secrets coming out or something like that. He was supposed to do an interview with Claudio, but like Jay and I are standing there on the street, like talking to each other, and like he looks over and he's like, "Is that Matt Pinfield?" And I look at him like, "Holy shit, it is." So we go to talk to him again. He's drunk, and he just starts rambling about like, "Yeah, I remember when we were trying to pitch this album," and I'm like, "Wow," like, and he like goes off like to do whatever, and I'm like, "We just met Matt Pinfield. Holy crap, that was awesome. Holy fuck, was he drunk?" It was great. Yeah, because he used to do Headbangers Ball, and he used to do, what was it? 120 Minutes was the other show on MTV he used to do, which they usually was like based around like a label or something. They do 2 hours of at one point they did, actually in one of my things that my ex-wife and I had like talked about initially is at one point they did 120 minutes of nothing records like Nine Inch Nails and stuff like that. So.
Is that where we got that A Whole Lot of Nothing thing from? What album was that? In Keeping Secrets that those were on?
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I sort of got like before the whole like the whole Dan thing and going to, you know, because I had already been to Atlanta too. So like when I ended up, actually that's part of the reason I ended up in Atlanta on that tour is because like I had met Caitlin Kelly, and throughout that entire whole like me being out on the road with Dan, Caitlin Kelly was just like, "I'm so bummed out you're not coming to Atlanta," and I'm so bummed out, like, and the number of people who knew I was going to Atlanta was me until I hit about West Virginia, and then I called Virginia because my roommate was being, you met him, Anna.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I sort of hopped in the car because I literally called her when I was right by her place. I'm like, yeah, can you give me a ride? You're going to the Atlanta show? Yeah, sure. I'm like, can you give me like a ride the rest of the way? So like my roommate literally dropped me off at Virginia's house, like in my full like bandana Coheed shirt kilt on her front lawn at some time in the fucking morning. And I think it was her. I ended up telling Colton for the setup, and Chase Chambers were the only three people who knew I was going to show up to that show, because the whole point of me getting there when it worked out was to surprise Caitlin. And it worked out so beautifully. And then from there, and I was like, how the hell do I get home? Well, flights out of Nashville are cheap, and I can get there the next day. But yeah, so I had like the warm-up before I hit like, the Royal Oak show, and met like Danielle Rose Howard for the first time and stuff like that, which was a whole experience in and of itself. We know her, we love her, she's her, and it's great. And then I hit Chicago, I met a bunch of people there, and then St. Paul, the only thing, I think Jacob Hussemeyer and Zach Smart were the two, but like it was sort of like the going to those first three, like I was still super nervous about meeting these people, but it was sort of like I had the warm up. I had the warm up, like, okay, I went out and got out of my shell and met these new people. Now I'm going to do more new people, and it's like, so.
I just did it all at once. Oh, and I should connect the dots to how I then met you, Alex. So after Denver, so that last show we called Denver Ender, right? Because of the Coheed song Never Ender, obviously, yeah. So that tour ended. I went back to Indianapolis, and I happened to be finishing up my grad degree, and I was applying for jobs with my master's. And I actually applied for pretty much all the jobs I applied for were here in Denver. I thought I was going to come out here to Denver, right? But the job I got was at the New York Public Library. Sorry, what?
Even before your family moved there, you were planning on moving there? Oh, okay.
I wanted to go west. So my dad's family's from Portland, Oregon originally. So I've always liked, the West Coast, mountains, that kind of thing. So I thought I was going to come out west. I applied for some jobs in like Portland and Seattle. So I really thought that I was going to go west. That was the plan. But then I got a job at the New York Public Library in New York City, and you don't turn them down. That's the biggest library system in the country. So for like me, a new librarian, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. So I moved out to New York, and the only people I knew out in New York were the people that I met when I randomly met you all in Denver. And it just so happened that when I moved, it was towards the end of Coheed's next tour, which would have been the second Color Before the Sun tour. They just did it again. And so for that tour and the next one, we continued to do Enders. So the last show, we had like these big, massive meetups. And that one, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just said prom.
Yeah. So I had, this whole time when I was back in Indianapolis, I was still in that message group with all of you guys who had been in Denver Ender. And so we all still talked. And like, you guys all went to see shows together. I didn't because I wasn't on the East Coast yet. But I was still in touch with all of you guys. You and me, Lindsay, got to know each other because we have a lot in common.
We were like in person.
Yeah, right. Pretty much. We found that out pretty quickly. So like we were friends. A couple of you guys ended up passing through Indianapolis and hanging out with me. Like Nicole was going to move to Ohio, and so she stayed with me for like a couple of weeks. So I did interact with some of you in that time, but most of you was just talking through the chat. But then you guys were the only ones I knew in New York when I moved. So you kind of my friend base there. And then it just so happened like a couple weeks after I moved was prom. So the last show on that tour was in Jersey. And whose idea was it to make it prom? Was it Biz's idea?
Biz, yeah.
Somebody in the chat brought up that we should do it like a prom because the music video for You Got Spirit Kid was the whole Amory High thing. So we made it Amory High prom. And so yeah, then everyone I hadn't met from the East Coast, like Alex, I met at Jersey prom. Yeah, and then so yeah, that's how I got to know you, Alex, and a bunch of people that I didn't know yet.
Yeah.
And then the next tour was the last Ender that we did, which was in Chicago.
Yeah, that was
awesome.
That was a good show.
That was the drive of death.
Yeah. So yeah, because I drove with you, Cram, and Danielle Dufresne, and Christy Griffin we picked up in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And it was like a 16-hour drive.
Yep.
How did I get to Chicago? I know after Chicago I drove with Jason and Nikki back to New York, but did I fly into Chicago? I don't even remember.
Were you living in San Fran at the time?
What?
Were you living in San Fran? Because I don't think you and I ever lived in New York at the same time, so you must have already been out west.
Yeah, no, I was definitely in California then. I think there was like a Green Day tour happening at the same time though. I don't know. I can't keep track of my own life. It's fine. I probably flew into Chicago and then drove to New York from there, but
No,
I
it was,
do remember
New
thinking
York.
about you drive though.
Yeah.
getting there wasn't bad because I just picked up Danielle and drove down and grabbed you in Manhattan, then we grabbed Christy in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
The drive, you're so glad you weren't on that drive. You would probably been like terrified of that drive home.
I wish I'd have come back with you instead of what I did do, but I don't want to talk about that. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Like if you're remember when we drove to Fenn's birthday party?
Yes.
Okay, and how you?
It was like that.
Yeah, because
Honestly,
it was.
likes to go nuts on like these windy, twisty, crazy roads just to freak me out. So.
It was nice. I could see oncoming headlights. It was funny because Kaylin's in the car with us, like, wee! And Anna's like, oh my god!
You were just doing it to freak me out, I think, mostly.
I mean, mostly it was like at the time I was driving a car that could handle those turns, and I was like, sweet! On the run down to Jersey, like, I bombed down that back road. Because I'm from the middle of, like, well, Anna came up to see the last place I lived in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the road's there, so like that's what I was used to driving on. So when I saw what I was driving on, I was just like, wee, let's go. And again, Kaylin's in the back, and she's like, yay! And Anna's like, oh my god, give me like 5 more seatbelts. It was a whole thing. But yeah, no, prom was fun. Prom was fun. Chicago Ender was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But like the ride home from that, because Danielle had to work, so the first chance we got. Okay, well, explain the tire comment. I blew 2 tires getting to Chicago because of Indiana.
Everybody wakes about the roads in Indiana, and they're right. They suck. The roads suck.
Yeah, Indiana.
You guys don't get to bitch because you didn't live there your whole life, so.
So I had to get 2 tires replaced and stuff like that. But it was me. I think Virginia Page Michael was another one who lost tires to it. Like there were a bunch. Like I think I did a count like of everyone complaining about how many tires. I think I came up with like 15 tires dead from getting there and having to drive through Indiana. But as in regards to the ride home, because Danielle had to go to work, and I had Danielle had to work, and I had taken the day off because I was going back because they added the extra New York date. So it wasn't like when we drove out there, we're like, stop, and yeah, we got time, and this, that, and the other thing. It was like, we have energy drinks, and we have me going 90. And we came up with a system where one of us would get out, slide the car, and hold the gas while it was pumping. One of us would run and use the bathroom, and then come out and take over so the other one could use the bathroom, and then we're back in the car, and we were fucking gone.
Because I think you told me the way there took like 16 hours, and to be fair, we did have to stop and wait for Christy for a minute. But then the way back, you did in like 14 hours.
Yeah, my GPS said it would take 16 and a half hours to get from Chicago back to Manchester, New Hampshire, and I did it in 14.
I think we got back to Jason's in 14 too, but that was because we had
wouldn't have been that far.
Manhattan.
Yeah, that's not, New York to Chicago is shorter. But yeah, no, I got back to Danielle's, and we both immediately passed out. I slept for like 5 hours, went and got my paycheck from work, and then drove back to New York for the other show. Because like everyone's like, yeah, Chicago Winter, we're doing the thing, and then we all plan on going, and then they add a New York date to the end of it.
Oh yeah, how about that?
Yeah, I remember walking in that show. I'm like, I'm here yet. I think I'm excited for this. I was exhausted. I was fucking done.
I didn't go to that show even though I lived in New York at the time.
No, you were there. I stayed with you that night. You were there.
Oh, yeah, maybe I went.
Yeah, me and Bill.
I think I stayed with her when I was there, but.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Was that Terminal 5?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Then yep, I remember that show. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. They instead of the Deer Hunter opening, they had Thank You Scientist.
Yeah. And that was there another band that opened?
Mutoid Man.
Yes. Thank you. That was it. Yep. You're right. I was there.
Yeah. Which actually they've been coming up on my Spotify of late, and actually like I wasn't a fan of them live, but okay, cool, I like it. But yeah, no,
Wait, now I'm remembering there was a hole in my memory. I know I stayed with you the second night. Where was I staying the first New York show? Was I with Agnes? I feel like I was with you part of it, and then maybe I was with Agnes. Where did I stay after the actual show?
I definitely skipped that first New York show.
Skip the first New York show. Okay.
yeah,
Sorry,
because
what-
Tristan and I were at the first New York show.
Oh, the first New York show. That was when you went to the festival.
Yep.
Yeah.
So actually, that's another fun story. So I I was upset with an ex at that point. And so he was going to be at that show. I didn't want to go. So I flew down. This is another instance where I just quit my job, and I had a credit card. So there's a lot of stories about me just randomly going places. But so I flew down. I went to Florida, right, and stayed with Felicia. And actually, fun fact, because that St. Petersburg show was when you remember I met Peter. We met Peter for the first time.
True.
But yeah, didn't really hang out with him until later. But
His girlfriend made some weird comments about my veins.
Your veins. Yep, she did. But then he got us into the pit for that show, if you recall. He just like steamrolled us into the pit for the first of many times. So we met Peter in St. Petersburg at that show, and then we went to the Atlanta show, which was fun because you and me and Felicia and Bronte opened up a pit ourselves, which was fun. That was fun. And then, so our friends Max and Zane, who we previously mentioned, Max lives out here in Denver, and Zane is from New Orleans. So they were going to this EDM festival in Texas, which was called Middle Land, and it was an EDM festival and a Renaissance fair, which was awesome. Because anyone who knows me knows that I'm a big nerd. I love Ren fairs and shit. So they were like, "Do you want to go to this with us?" And I was like, "I don't have to go to work, and I still have this credit card, so I guess we'll go. I guess we'll just go to this EDM fest." And so I knew my ex was going to be at the New York show, so I was like, I'm just going to do a bunch of drugs that weekend and go to a Ren fair. So I did, and it was awesome. It was really fun. Yeah. So that's what I did while you guys were in New York.
Yeah.
I know when I left Atlanta, I flew into New York and Biz picked me up and hung out with him for like a couple days before the New York show. But I remember leaving his house. So now where did I stay after the New York show? Is like.
I must have been with Agnes or something.
Yeah, it had to be because I had Tristan, so we went down and crashed with Jason and Nikki.
Just feel like
I remember the one negative was that I missed Tristan for that show. But
yeah, because I remember because we got in trouble because the restaurant / bar that everyone met up at before the show, you came through the door and I picked you up and the bartender yelled at me for it. No, like we like not just like hey, it was like legit yelled.
Yeah.
At us.
Side.
For those who don't know, Alex loves to like physically lift people up. That's sort of his thing.
Yes. There's plenty of pictures of me like there's a reason why like my chat for Facebook for Lindsay is the backpack because that's basically what I use.
One of my favorite photos of you and me was when you came to visit me in Manhattan, and there's this picture of me like over your shoulder with my hair.
Oh, when we went out drinking, yeah. Yeah, like me literally carrying you down the street.
You did, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. God. Yeah, for a while there, it was you guys and Tristan who were my favorite projectiles at concerts, but now I'm freaking, again, my kid's taller than I am now. So.
Well, Lindsay and I are still small, and we're not going to grow, so.
You can still eat me.
Oh,
well, a photo in Chicago of you trying to pick up me, Lindsay, and Danielle at the same time.
Oh, God, that didn't go. Yeah, like the three of you was a little much.
I think we almost broke you, yeah. Sorry about that.
That's fine. Had worse. But yeah, there's a friggin', what was the other, there's also all the pictures of rockin', like you mentioned Rockin' Derby, like that's the first time like I ended up like carrying you around. That originally started out of spite.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. The first time we took a picture of him picking me up was because Adam was ghosting me, and I just wanted to be like, I want a picture of another guy picking me up, just to like fuck you.
Yeah, and then I just kept doing it.
Why do we do everything because of guys or to spite them? I don't like that.
I don't know.
It ended up fun, but.
I mean, whatever. It's still probably the best picture we have of us, though.
It is a really good picture.
That was a good photo. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
That was when I was still in Indiana, and I was jealous because I couldn't go to all the fun East Coast shows that you guys got to go to.
Yeah. but that Rockin' Derby show was because we got fucked up the night before we went.
Oh.
We got really fucked. We got hammered as hell. We stayed at. We stayed at who was it? Sam, Danielle's former friend now, Sam. We stayed at her house, and there was like a picnic table out back because they had a yard, and we were just out there, just like had a little pit fire, and we were just fucking drinking. It was like Daniel Dufresne, Colton.
There was a lot of spanking going on that night.
That was, I think, when you guys met Larry, and there was some story involving a bread shovel.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Yes. Okay.
I called him bread shovel. I don't remember what he did though.
Okay, so this is secondhand knowledge because I had already gone upstairs and passed out. Okay, this is secondhand knowledge. I will admit that. But so Danielle Rose Howard, and I have to clarify that because there were the two Danielles there. There was Danielle Dufresne and Danielle Rose Howard. Had been at Rockin' Derby for the entire weekend. She went upstairs and passed out. I was soon to follow because I remember waking her up. I'm like, hey, this is like one of the only, like, I don't want to sleep on the floor because it's cool and I share a bed with you. But I guess after that happened, Danielle Dufresne was outside and Larry had just disappeared, and we've all been like drinking heavily. And I guess when Danielle went to find Larry, he was sitting in front of the open fridge with a Chinese carry-out container using a piece of bread to shovel it in his mouth because he was too drunk to find a fork.
Yeah, that's roughly how I remember that story going. Yeah.
I believe, again, that's what I was told happened. Again, I was already passed the fuck out. And then I remember waking up in the morning and everyone was piled in the closet. Like, everyone was piled in the closet. We were all in the closet.
It was Jason, me, Kaylin, and Danielle Dufresne, I think. I think it was just the four of us. But yeah, we literally slept in the closet.
Yeah, I remember when I woke up, but I remember, like, after, like, everyone realized where everyone was, we just all, like, continued to, like, flop on each other until we made that giant pile. Because I remember, I'm like, where is everyone? I looked at him, like, oh, okay, this is where we're doing it. Flop. And then David Williams said it came in. And then Dana Rose Howard came in. So it ended up, like, I think at one point there were like 8 people in that fucking closet.
Piles was kind of the thing for a while that everybody did.
The cuddle puddles, yeah. There was one room after Jersey Prom.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of a whole thing is like, again, first Coheed show I went to was Year of the Black Rainbow with Carl, and it sucks because I tried to correct this mistake for the I, the Mighty Amberlynn show. So the first Coheed show for that Year of the Black Rainbow tour was like, House of Blues Boston. And I'm like, okay, cool, like parking's right there and this. I didn't stop for a second to think that Fenway Park is literally across the street. And the day of that show was not just Red Sox versus Yankees, but it's also Derek Jeter's last game.
Ooh.
So getting anywhere close to the House of Blues while that was going on, didn't really happen. We eventually got there, but holy fuck. So when I was talking to Lindsay about, like, I, the Mighty Amberlynn, I'm like, okay, I'm going to check the Red Sox schedule and see if they're playing that day. And they weren't. I'm like, fuck yeah, no problems this time, until we got down there and Fish is playing.
Oh no.
It was Fish at Fenway. And
they all had like those drug balloons. What was it, like nitrous something?
Yeah, they all had nitrous. Oh yeah. It was a whole. I remember it was funny though because I remember friggin' Tristan sent Brent a message on Instagram. He's like, "You stuck us in the middle of hippies. Who booked this?"
Oh man.
That's another thing my 15-year-old can say that he like not many people in general can say is like he can just message the lead singer of his favorite band.
I know, how fucking cool is that?
Yeah. Well, I know he messaged him when they did the live stream the other day because it was actually like it was his birthday concert.
Aww.
Because when Brent and Ian did the set for Karma in their living room.
Yeah.
Was Tristan's birthday.
Yeah.
So, man, it was funny because I was like gonna play games with Tristan after that, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Talking to Brent." I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna go play Pokemon while you," because I know that's gonna be a second, you know.
One of the best moments of my whole life was when I was in Chicago and I was in college, and I just finished cancer treatment like a couple months before, and my brother was in Indianapolis, and Claudia was doing like signings at comic book stores because Kill Audio had just come out. And in Indianapolis, again, no one listens to good music there. I shouldn't say no one. All my Indianapolis friends would be mad, but like, so no one showed up except for like my brother and his girlfriend at the time, and so like he just spent 2 hours talking to Claudio and had him call me on the phone, and I got the message like on my break from class. And like, I think I might have skipped the rest of class and gone back to my dorm and called Claudio on the phone. And that was like the rest of my whole life. But like, your kid gets to actually like talk to the singer of his favorite band all the time. That's
Yeah. Yeah. No, Brett and Blake like are I guess a pretty regular thing. So.
Cool. Yeah, I know that he likes to troll Blake.
Oh, he loves to troll.
That's like his express affection.
Did you see Blake's Instagram live for the I the Mighty? He did 15 minutes of dad jokes. It was great. It was great.
Awesome.
But speaking of my child trolling, Blake is one of them was like, you know, why can't you hear the pterodactyl using the bathroom? And dad joke because the P is silent. And Tristan, I'm watching the live stream and all I see is Tristan in the chat because it's dead.
No!
I'm just sitting there like
Fucking dead, man.